In the quiet town of Maplewood, nestled between rolling hills and dense forests, life moved at a predictable pace. The townsfolk were accustomed to their routines, greeting each other with familiar nods and warm smiles as they went about their daily lives. It was here, in this unassuming place, that Thomas Grayson lived his rather ordinary existence. A 34-year-old mechanic with perpetually grease-stained hands and a heart that beat to the rhythm of socket wrenches and engine hums, Thomas had never been one for grand adventures or extraordinary experiences. His world revolved around fixing cars, enjoying the occasional fishing trip with his childhood friend Ben, and maintaining his modest home on the outskirts of town. The small garage where Thomas spent most of his days stood as a testament to his simple life. Tools hung neatly on pegboards, their silhouettes creating patterns against the worn walls. The air always carried the mingling scents of motor oil and fresh coffee from the ancient percolator that sat on a workbench covered in repair manuals and spare parts. Customers came and went, bringing their automotive woes to Thomas's capable hands, trusting him to breathe new life into their struggling vehicles. Yet beneath this veneer of normalcy, something unusual had been stirring in Maplewood. For weeks now, strange lights had been spotted dancing across the night sky, their movements too precise to be mere atmospheric phenomena. Local farmers reported seeing perfectly circular patterns pressed into their cornfields overnight, while others claimed to hear peculiar humming sounds emanating from the woods surrounding the town. Most dismissed these occurrences as whether anomalies or elaborate pranks, but Thomas couldn't shake the feeling that something more profound was happening just beyond the edges of his understanding. On particularly clear nights, when the stars seemed especially bright, Thomas would find himself gazing up at the heavens from his backyard, wondering about the vastness of space and whether they were truly alone in the universe. These moments of cosmic contemplation were rare for him, brief pauses in an otherwise grounded existence, but they left an indelible mark on his imagination. Little did he know that his quiet life was about to intersect with forces far beyond anything he could have imagined, setting into motion events that would challenge everything he thought he knew about reality, love, and the nature of connection itself. It was during one of those unusually clear nights that everything changed. Thomas had decided to take a break from repairing an old Chevy truck, stepping outside his garage to stretch his legs and clear his mind. The air was crisp with the first hints of autumn, carrying with it the earthy scent of fallen leaves. As he leaned against the garage wall, sipping from a chipped coffee mug, he noticed a peculiar shimmer in the distance. At first, he thought it might be heat waves rising from the asphalt, but the phenomenon persisted even as the evening cooled. Curiosity getting the better of him, Thomas grabbed his flashlight and began walking toward the source of the disturbance. The closer he got to the edge of the forest, the more pronounced the shimmer became, until he found himself standing before what appeared to be a curtain of liquid silver hanging between two ancient oak trees. His rational mind told him to turn back, to chalk it up to some bizarre optical illusion, but there was something compelling about the way the light danced and pulsed, almost as if it were alive. Before he could talk himself out of it, Thomas reached out to touch the shimmering surface. His fingers passed through what felt like cool water, but instead of resistance, he encountered a strange tingling sensation that traveled up his arm. The world around him dissolved into a kaleidoscope of colors and sensations, and when his vision cleared, he found himself standing in a chamber unlike anything he'd ever seen. The walls seemed to be made of living crystal, pulsating with inner light that shifted through every color of the spectrum. Gravity felt slightly off, making his movements feel both weightless and deliberate. From the center of the room emerged a figure that defied all earthly logic. She, for Thomas instinctively recognized her as female, stood at least 7 feet tall, her form gracefully proportioned yet distinctly alien. Her skin shimmered with iridescent hues that changed with her movements, and her eyes, large and almond-shaped, contained galaxies within their depths. A delicate crown of crystalline structures adorned her head, and her presence commanded both awe and an inexplicable sense of familiarity. "Thomas Grayson," she spoke, her voice resonating in multiple harmonics that bypassed his ears and seemed to vibrate directly in his chest. "You have crossed the threshold between worlds." Stammering, Thomas tried to explain himself, to apologize for his intrusion, but words failed him. Instead, he found himself reaching into his pocket, where he'd been carrying a small velvet box containing an engagement ring, a relic from a relationship that had ended months ago. He'd meant to return it to the jeweler, but somehow had never gotten around to it. In his nervousness, he pulled it out, holding it awkwardly in his trembling hand. I'm sorry," he managed to say. "I didn't mean to intrude. This is incredible. You're Amazing. The words tumbled out in a jumble, his human social protocols completely overwhelmed by the situation. The alien queen tilted her head, studying him with an expression that seemed to contain equal parts amusement and curiosity. "You offer me this token?" she asked, gesturing toward the ring with an elegant appendage. "A symbol of your people's deepest commitment?" "No." "Well, yes, but not exactly," Thomas stammered, realizing how absurd the situation had become. "It's just, I wasn't expecting. You're—" Her melodic laughter filled the chamber, and Thomas felt an unexpected warmth spread through him. "Your species' capacity for wonder and courage is remarkable," she said, her gaze softening. "Even when faced with the unknown, you reach out with your hearts open." The gravity of his accidental gesture hit Thomas like a ton of bricks. Here he was, a simple mechanic from Maplewood, standing in what could only be described as an alien palace, having inadvertently proposed marriage to what appeared to be royalty from another world. His face flushed with embarrassment, and he began to babble apologies, trying to explain the cultural significance of engagement rings on Earth and how this whole situation was a terrible misunderstanding. To his astonishment, the Queen raised a hand to silence him, her expression shifting to one of thoughtful consideration. "Among my people," she explained, "such spontaneous gestures are viewed as pure expressions of the soul. They carry more weight than carefully planned ceremonies or formal declarations." "But I'm nobody," Thomas protested, his voice barely above a whisper. "I fix cars for a living. I don't understand half of what's happening right now." "Perhaps that is precisely why this moment holds such significance," she replied, her multitonal voice carrying a depth of meaning that transcended language. "Your people often complicate matters of the heart with elaborate rituals and expectations. Yet here you stand, offering your most sincere symbol of devotion with—" Thomas's mind raced as he tried to process her words. Everything he knew about relationships, about courtship and commitment, seemed woefully inadequate in this context. On Earth, proposing marriage was supposed to be a carefully considered decision, preceded by dating, mutual understanding, and shared experiences. Yet here he was, having skipped all those steps in the most spectacular fashion possible. The Queen stepped closer, her presence filling the chamber with an energy that made Thomas's skin tingle. "Do you understand what you have done?" she asked, her voice gentle but firm. "In our culture, such an act creates a bond that transcends physical realms. It is not merely a question of yes or no. It is an invitation to explore the infinite possibilities of connection between beings from different worlds." As she spoke, images began to form in the crystalline walls around them. Scenes of countless civilizations, each demonstrating their unique ways of forming bonds and expressing devotion. Thomas saw creatures of light dancing among stars, beings of pure energy merging and separating in complex patterns, and entities that defied all conventional understanding of life coming together in harmony. I don't know what to say," Thomas admitted, feeling utterly overwhelmed. "This isn't how any of this was supposed to happen. I'm just a guy who works on cars and watches too many science fiction movies." The Queen's response was unexpected. She extended one of her graceful limbs, and the engagement ring floated from Thomas's hand to hover between them. "Your humility is endearing," she said, her voice carrying a note of genuine affection. "But do not diminish the significance of this moment. Across the vast expanse of the cosmos, beings seek connection in countless ways. Some through shared purpose, others through mutual survival, and still others through the mysterious alchemy of attraction and compatibility." She paused, allowing Thomas to absorb her words. "What you humans call love is but one manifestation of a universal principle, the fundamental drive to transcend individual limitations through union with another. Your species has developed elaborate systems to navigate this territory, yet sometimes the most profound connections occur when all systems fail, leaving only raw authenticity." Thomas found himself staring at the floating ring, its simple diamond catching and refracting the chamber's multicolored light in ways that made it appear otherworldly. "But we're so different," he argued weakly. You're magnificent. And I'm just—" "Just what?" she interrupted, her voice carrying a challenge. "Just a representative of a species that has mastered flight, split the atom, and created symphonies that move millions? Just a being capable of kindness, creativity, and courage in the face of the unknown? Do not sell your kind short, Thomas Grayson." Her words struck a chord deep within him. All his life, he defined himself by his limitations. His small-town upbringing, his blue-collar job, his lack of higher education. But standing here, facing this extraordinary being, he began to see himself through different eyes. Perhaps his very ordinariness was what made this moment so extraordinary. After all, it wasn't kings or presidents who typically bridged the gap between worlds. It was regular people, stumbling into situations they couldn't possibly prepare for. The Queen's next words sent a shiver down his spine. Consider this. Throughout the ages, your people have looked to the stars and wondered. Now, you have answered that call, not through calculation or ambition, but through pure, unguarded humanity. Is that not worth exploring further? As Thomas struggled to process everything, the Queen revealed more about her own world and its customs. Through a combination of telepathic communication and visual projections in the crystalline walls, she painted a picture of a society that valued authenticity above all else. Among her people, relationships were formed not through traditional courtship but through shared experiences that tested the limits of understanding and adaptation between different beings. In our realm, she explained, her voice weaving through Thomas's consciousness like a symphony, connections are forged through resonance. When two beings from different worlds meet, their energies interact in unique patterns. Sometimes these patterns harmonize naturally. Other times, they require careful cultivation and mutual effort. She demonstrated this concept by creating a three-dimensional projection of their current energetic interaction. Thomas watched, fascinated, as tendrils of light representing their individual essences intertwined and pulsed with varying intensities. "See how your human energy responds to mine," she asked. "There is a natural affinity here, an unexpected compatibility that transcends our differences." The implications of her words sank in slowly. This wasn't just about romantic connection. It was about bridging two entirely different forms of existence. The Queen explained how her people viewed relationships as opportunities for growth and evolution, both individually and collectively. When beings from different worlds come together, they create something entirely new, she said. A fusion of perspectives, abilities, and understandings that enriches both parties and contributes to the greater tapestry of existence. Thomas found himself drawn to the concept, despite its overwhelming complexity. He realized that human relationships often followed similar principles, though on a much smaller scale. People from different backgrounds, cultures, and experiences came together, learning from each other and creating something greater than the sum of its parts. The difference here was the magnitude. The scale of difference between their worlds was astronomical. But how would this even work? Thomas asked, voicing the practical concerns that had been building in his mind. I mean, we're literally from different dimensions. How could we possibly? The Queen silenced him with a gesture, then demonstrated several technologies that addressed his concerns. She showed him devices that could adapt his human physiology to survive in various environments, including her home dimension. More importantly, she revealed methods of consciousness sharing that would allow them to experience each other's worlds from the inside, literally seeing through each other's eyes and feeling through each other's senses. This is not merely about physical coexistence, she explained. True connection requires understanding at the deepest levels. Through these techniques, we can share memories, emotions, and perceptions in ways that transcend simple communication. As she spoke, Thomas experienced a sample of this consciousness sharing. Suddenly, he found himself viewing Maplewood through her eyes. The familiar streets and buildings transformed into patterns of energy and vibration. Then, just as quickly, he was experiencing her world through her perspective, feeling the flow of cosmic energies and the intricate dance of particles that composed her realm. The sensation was both exhilarating and disorienting, like trying to grasp infinity with finite senses. The Queen guided him through these experiences with gentle precision, helping him maintain his sense of self while expanding his awareness. "This is how we learn," she said. "Not through books or lectures, but through direct experience. By sharing our realities, we create a new understanding that encompasses both." Thomas began to see the potential in what she was describing. It wasn't just about overcoming differences. It was about using those differences as building blocks for something unprecedented. Each challenge they faced, each barrier they encountered, would become an opportunity for growth and discovery. The very fact that they came from such radically different backgrounds would ensure that their connection remained dynamic and evolving. But what about everything else? Thomas asked hesitantly. Family, friends, responsibilities? I can't just disappear from my life here. The Queen nodded, acknowledging the complexity of his situation. No true connection demands complete abandonment of one's roots. There are ways to maintain your ties to your world while exploring new horizons. Portals can be established, temporal adjustments made, and communication maintained across dimensions. She showed him examples of other cross-dimensional relationships that had succeeded, each one unique in its approach to balancing different worlds. Some individuals maintained separate existences in both realms, while others found ways to merge aspects of their lives. The key, she explained, was flexibility and willingness to adapt. As the hours stretched into what felt like days, though time seemed to behave differently in this realm, Thomas found himself grappling with increasingly complex questions. What did commitment mean when applied to beings from different dimensions? How could they possibly build a future together when their very concepts of time and space differed so fundamentally? The Queen introduced him to the concept of quantum entanglement as it applied to relationships in her world. When two beings become deeply connected, she explained, their fates become intertwined across all possible timelines. This creates a bond that persists regardless of physical separation or dimensional barriers. She demonstrated this principle by showing him alternate versions of himself from parallel universes, some where he had never entered the shimmering portal, others where he had made different choices upon meeting her. In each scenario, the core essence of who he was remained constant, while the details of his life varied dramatically. This is both the challenge and the beauty of what you propose, she said, her voice carrying a note of solemnity. By accepting this connection, you would be opening yourself to infinite possibilities, each one valid and real in its own way. Your consciousness would expand to encompass multiple existences simultaneously. Thomas felt his mind stretching to accommodate these revelations. Human relationships already required navigating complex emotional landscapes, but this was something else entirely. He would need to learn to exist in multiple states of being, to embrace paradoxes and contradictions as fundamental aspects of his new reality. The Queen helped him explore these concepts through immersive experiences that allowed him to temporarily inhabit different versions of himself. He found himself working in his garage while simultaneously standing beside her in her crystalline palace, feeling both sensations as equally real and immediate. The experience was disorienting but also strangely liberating, as if he were shedding layers of limitation he hadn't even realized he was carrying. They discussed the practical implications of such a connection, how they would handle conflicts, misunderstandings, and the inevitable challenges of blending two vastly different perspectives. The Queen revealed that her people had developed sophisticated methods for resolving disputes, involving shared dreamscapes where conflicting viewpoints could be explored and reconciled without judgment or fear. We must approach this with eyes wide open, she cautioned. The path ahead will not be easy. There will be moments when our differences seem insurmountable, when the gulf between our worlds feels too vast to bridge. But these challenges are precisely what make the connection worthwhile. Thomas found himself nodding, despite the enormity of what they were discussing. Something deep within him responded to the truth in her words. Throughout his life, he'd always sought meaning in the connections he formed with others. Whether it was helping a customer understand their car's problems, sharing a laugh with Ben over a fishing trip gone wrong, or simply exchanging pleasantries with neighbors. This, he realized, was just an extension of that fundamental drive, taken to its ultimate expression. The Queen sensed his growing understanding and offered him a choice. You may return to your world now, with no obligation or expectation. What has transpired here remains between us, a private moment of cosmic significance. Or you may choose to begin this journey together, knowing that it will change you in ways you cannot yet imagine. As Thomas considered his response, he felt the weight of the decision pressing upon him. This wasn't just about saying yes or no to a proposal. It was about embracing an entirely new paradigm of existence. Yet even as doubt and fear whispered in the corners of his mind, a deeper certainty began to emerge. The same qualities that had led him to this moment, his openness, his willingness to engage with the unknown, his fundamental humanity, were precisely what made him capable of taking this step. I'm ready, he said finally, his voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions within him. I don't understand everything, and I know there will be challenges ahead. But I believe in the possibility of what we could create together. The Queen's response was immediate and profound. Her entire form seemed to glow brighter, and the chamber around them resonated with harmonic frequencies that made Thomas's very bones vibrate with joy. "Then let us begin," she said, her voice carrying the weight of destiny fulfilled. "Together, we shall write a new chapter in the story of connection between worlds." As she extended her hand toward him, Thomas realized that his journey was just beginning. The simple act of reaching out had set into motion forces that would reshape his understanding of love, commitment, and the very nature of existence itself. The engagement ring, still hovering between them, began to transform, its diamond fracturing into countless facets that reflected both their worlds simultaneously. The Queen guided Thomas through the initial stages of their connection with a patience that belied the cosmic significance of their union. They began with small, intimate exchanges, sharing favorite memories, exploring each other's sensory perceptions, and learning to communicate through a combination of spoken language, telepathic impressions, and shared emotional states. Each session left Thomas feeling both expanded and grounded, as if he were growing new neural pathways while simultaneously touching something ancient and fundamental within himself. Their first true test came when Thomas attempted to introduce the Queen to his world. Standing in his modest kitchen, watching her examine a toaster with the same reverence he'd shown her crystalline palace, he realized how vast the cultural divide truly was. "This device warms bread through electrical resistance?" she asked, her eyes wide with wonder. "And your people use it every morning without thought?" "It's just a toaster," Thomas chuckled, but then he saw the situation through her eyes. To her, every mundane object represented a window into human ingenuity and adaptation. The Queen spent hours exploring his garage, fascinated by how primitive mechanical tools could achieve such precise results. In turn, she demonstrated how her people manipulated matter at a fundamental level, shaping objects and environments through pure intention. These exchanges led to deeper discussions about the nature of technology and progress. Thomas found himself defending human achievements while acknowledging their limitations, while the Queen shared insights about her civilization's development that challenged everything he thought he knew about evolution and advancement. They discovered that their respective approaches to problem-solving complemented each other perfectly. His practical, hands-on methodology balanced by her intuitive grasp of underlying principles. The challenges mounted as they attempted to integrate their lives more fully. Timekeeping proved particularly difficult, as the Queen experienced temporal flow differently than humans. What felt like a few hours to Thomas might span days in her perception, or vice versa. They developed a system of shared temporal markers, using specific celestial alignments visible from both their worlds to synchronize their experiences. Communication presented another hurdle. While the Queen could easily access Thomas's thoughts and emotions, he struggled to comprehend her multi-layered modes of expression. She communicated not just through words or telepathy, but through subtle shifts in her bioluminescent patterns and the modulation of gravitational fields around her. Thomas began keeping detailed journals, documenting these patterns and their meanings, gradually developing a rudimentary understanding of her native language. Their physical differences required creative solutions as well. The Queen's body operated on principles that defied human biology, requiring specialized environmental controls whenever she visited Earth. Thomas converted part of his property into a sanctuary that could sustain her presence, using technology she provided along with his own mechanical expertise. In return, she taught him techniques for adapting his own physiology to visit her realm safely. Perhaps the most significant challenge came when they attempted to share emotional experiences. Human emotions, with their messy intensity and unpredictable nature, often overwhelmed the Queen's more refined sensibilities. Conversely, her emotions manifested in ways that initially frightened Thomas. Waves of cosmic energy that could bend light and distort space. Through patient experimentation, they learned to modulate these responses, creating a shared emotional vocabulary that honored both their natures. These trials brought them closer, forging a bond that transcended their differences. They discovered that their struggles to understand each other created opportunities for growth that neither could have achieved alone. The Queen's perspective helped Thomas see his own world with fresh eyes, while his human approachability made her vast knowledge and power more accessible and relatable. As word of their connection began to spread through both their worlds, they faced new challenges from their respective societies. Some humans, learning of Thomas's experiences, demanded proof or accused him of fabrication. Others saw his relationship with the Queen as a threat to human autonomy. Meanwhile, factions within the Queen's realm questioned the wisdom of such an intimate connection with a being from a less advanced civilization. Through it all, their commitment to each other deepened. They developed strategies for managing public scrutiny, establishing boundaries that protected their privacy while allowing for controlled sharing of their experiences. The Queen introduced Thomas to diplomatic protocols for interdimensional relations, while he taught her about human concepts of personal space and individual rights. Their journey became a dance of constant adjustment and recalibration. Each success built upon previous ones, creating a foundation of trust and understanding that grew stronger with each challenge they faced. They learned to celebrate their differences rather than fear them, finding beauty in the gaps between their worlds and joy in bridging those spaces. Most profoundly, they discovered that their connection was affecting both their worlds in unexpected ways. Human scientists began observing anomalies in local physics that correlated with the Queen's visits, while her people reported shifts in their collective consciousness that mirrored human emotional patterns. Their relationship was becoming more than just a personal union. It was catalyzing changes that rippled through both dimensions. As their bond deepened, Thomas and the Queen found themselves at the center of increasingly complex circumstances that blurred the lines between their personal connection and broader cosmic events. Strange phenomena began manifesting in Maplewood, subtle at first, like streetlights flickering in patterns that matched the Queen's bioluminescent displays, but gradually escalating to more dramatic occurrences. Residents reported seeing fleeting glimpses of crystalline structures in the woods, and local wildlife started exhibiting behaviors that suggested exposure to alien energies. The scientific community took notice when instruments at nearby research facilities began registering anomalous readings that defied conventional physics. Teams of researchers descended upon Maplewood, setting up monitoring stations and conducting experiments that sometimes interfered with the delicate balance Thomas and the Queen had established. The couple found themselves caught between their desire for privacy and the need to manage these intrusions responsibly. Meanwhile, political tensions escalated as governments worldwide debated how to handle evidence of extraterrestrial contact. Some officials viewed the situation as a potential threat, advocating for containment and secrecy, while others saw an opportunity for technological advancement and cultural exchange. Thomas found himself thrust into the role of intermediary, explaining the nuances of his relationship with the Queen to skeptical military personnel and government agents. The Queen's own realm faced similar upheaval. Traditionalists within her society argued that such intimate connections with lesser evolved species risked contamination of their pure energy forms. Progressive factions, however, saw this union as validation of their long-held beliefs about the interconnectedness of all conscious beings. Political factions formed around these opposing views, leading to debates that sometimes spilled over into demonstrations of power that affected both dimensions. Most challenging of all were the mysterious forces that seemed to oppose their union entirely. Shadowy figures began appearing in both worlds, beings who existed in the spaces between dimensions, feeding on the energy generated by their connection. These entities, neither fully of Thomas's world nor the Queen's, represented a threat that neither had anticipated. They attacked not with violence but through subtle manipulations of reality, creating rifts in space-time that threatened to tear their worlds apart. Through these trials, Thomas and the Queen discovered hidden strengths within themselves and their relationship. They developed new methods of communication that transcended both human language and the Queen's native forms of expression, creating a hybrid mode of interaction that drew upon the best aspects of both. Thomas's practical problem-solving skills combined with the Queen's mastery of fundamental forces to create innovative solutions to the challenges they faced. Their efforts to manage these complications led to unexpected breakthroughs. Scientists working under their guidance made discoveries that bridged human technology with alien principles, leading to advances in energy production and medical treatment. Diplomatic relations between their worlds evolved from cautious observation to active collaboration, with Thomas serving as a unique ambassador who could speak from both perspectives. Yet with each success came new complexities. The more they integrated their lives, the more their actions affected both worlds. Weather patterns shifted in ways that correlated with their emotional states. Economic markets fluctuated in response to their public appearances. Even the fabric of reality itself seemed to respond to the strength of their connection, creating pockets of altered physics that baffled researchers and mystics alike. The shadowy entities continued their subtle attacks, forcing Thomas and the Queen to develop defensive measures that combined human ingenuity with alien technology. They created wards and protective fields that drew upon both their powers, establishing safe zones where their worlds could overlap without interference. These defenses required constant maintenance and adaptation, as the entities evolved their tactics in response. Through it all, their personal connection remained the anchor that held everything together. In moments of crisis, They found that their ability to share consciousness and experiences gave them insights that others lacked. They could anticipate each other's needs and responses with uncanny accuracy, making decisions that accounted for both human and alien perspectives simultaneously. The situation reached a critical point when the disturbances began affecting the stability of both dimensions. Rifts appeared that threatened to merge their worlds in uncontrollable ways, while the shadowy entities grew bolder in their attacks. Governments on both sides prepared for conflict, while civilian populations reacted with a mixture of fear and fascination. Thomas and the Queen found themselves at the center of a storm that threatened to consume everything they had built. In response, they initiated a bold plan to confront the root causes of the disturbances. Drawing upon everything they had learned about their connection and its effects on reality, they began constructing a framework for permanent, stable interaction between their worlds. This involved not just technological solutions but social and cultural adaptations that would allow both species to coexist and thrive together. Their efforts attracted allies from both worlds, humans who understood the potential benefits of this union, and members of the Queen's people who recognized the evolutionary advantages of cross-dimensional connection. Together, they formed a council that would oversee the integration process and mediate conflicts as they arose. Thomas and the Queen served as co-leaders of this council, their unique perspective guiding decisions that affected billions of beings across multiple dimensions. The challenges continued to mount, but with each obstacle overcome, their bond grew stronger. They learned to navigate the complex web of political, scientific, and social factors that influenced their relationship, developing strategies that balanced the needs of both worlds. Their personal connection became a model for others seeking to bridge divides between different forms of consciousness, inspiring similar unions across the cosmos. As they worked to stabilize their worlds, Thomas and the Queen discovered deeper layers to their connection that hinted at even greater possibilities. Their shared consciousness began revealing patterns in the fabric of reality that neither had perceived before, suggesting that their union might have implications far beyond their immediate circumstances. These revelations pointed toward a future where the distinction between their worlds might become increasingly fluid, creating opportunities for growth and understanding that neither could have imagined at the start of their journey. The unfolding drama between Thomas and the Queen rippled outward, touching lives across both their worlds in ways that defied simple categorization. In Maplewood, residents who had once dismissed Thomas as just another local mechanic now regarded him with a mixture of awe and pride. His former customers brought their children to the edge of his property, pointing out the subtle signs of otherworldly influence. The way certain plants grew in impossible patterns, or how raindrops sometimes froze momentarily in mid-air before continuing their descent. The town itself seemed to resonate with a new energy, its familiar streets and buildings infused with a sense of cosmic significance. Among the Queen's people, reactions ranged from reverent admiration to cautious skepticism. Younger generations, particularly, found inspiration in the idea that even the most seemingly incompatible beings could form meaningful connections. Artists began incorporating human elements into their crystalline compositions, while philosophers re-examined long-held assumptions about the nature of consciousness and evolution. The Queen's willingness to embrace a human partner challenged traditional hierarchies and opened dialogues about the value of diversity in consciousness. Scientific communities in both realms experienced a renaissance of discovery. Human researchers, working alongside their alien counterparts, developed technologies that bridged the gap between mechanical and energy-based systems. Medical breakthroughs emerged from studies of how Thomas's human physiology adapted to the Queen's presence, leading to treatments that combined biological and energetic healing methods. Astrophysicists observed previously undetected patterns in cosmic radiation that corresponded to fluctuations in the couple's shared energy field, suggesting new theories about the fundamental nature of reality. Cultural exchanges flourished, though not without challenges. Human musicians collaborated with alien sound weavers to create compositions that transcended traditional notions of music, while chefs experimented with combining earth ingredients with substances that existed in quantum states. These collaborations sometimes produced spectacular successes and occasionally resulted in culinary disasters that left participants laughing and learning simultaneously. Language scholars worked to create hybrid communication systems that honored both human linguistic structures and the Queen's multidimensional modes of expression. The media coverage of their relationship evolved from sensational headlines to more nuanced explorations of interdimensional diplomacy and cultural synthesis. Documentaries captured moments of everyday life shared between worlds, from Thomas teaching the Queen how to drive a car to her introducing him to the art of manipulating gravitational fields for artistic expression. These portrayals help demystify the alien presence while highlighting the universal aspects of their connection. The shared laughter, moments of frustration, and profound instances of mutual understanding. Political ramifications extended far beyond local governance. International bodies established new departments dedicated to interdimensional relations, drawing upon Thomas and the Queen's experiences to craft policies that balanced security concerns with opportunities for growth. Treaties were negotiated that recognized the sovereignty of both worlds while establishing frameworks for cooperation and conflict resolution. Military forces developed protocols for responding to dimensional anomalies, incorporating both human strategic thinking and alien energy manipulation techniques. Environmental impacts became increasingly apparent as the couple's connection influenced natural systems. Weather patterns adjusted in ways that benefited both ecosystems, with rainfall becoming more predictable in drought-prone areas while temperature extremes moderated. Certain plant species demonstrated accelerated evolution, developing properties that suggested adaptation to subtle alien influences. Conservationists worked with energy specialists to study these changes, leading to breakthroughs in sustainable resource management. Social structures in both worlds began to reflect the influence of their union. Human institutions incorporated more flexible approaches to identity and belonging, inspired by the fluid boundaries between dimensions. The Queen's society, traditionally rigid in its hierarchical organization, started experimenting with more organic forms of governance that allowed for individual expression while maintaining collective harmony. Educational systems in both realms adapted to include studies of cross-dimensional phenomena, preparing future generations for a world where such connections might become more common. Artistic expression underwent a transformation as creators from both worlds found new ways to collaborate. Painters worked with lightbenders to create artworks that changed depending on the viewer's dimensional perspective. Writers crafted stories that unfolded simultaneously in multiple timelines, while performers developed shows that engaged audiences across spatial boundaries. These artistic endeavors helped bridge cultural gaps and foster understanding between species that had previously seemed impossibly different. Technological innovations based on their shared experiences began transforming daily life. Transportation systems incorporated dimensional folding techniques that reduced travel times while maintaining safety standards. Communication networks developed protocols that allowed for instantaneous transfer of information across worlds, revolutionizing everything from emergency response to entertainment distribution. Energy production facilities adopted hybrid systems that combined human engineering with alien energy manipulation, leading to more efficient and environmentally friendly power sources. Philosophical and spiritual traditions in both worlds underwent significant evolution as people grappled with the implications of their interconnectedness. Religious leaders engaged in dialogues about the nature of divinity and consciousness, while secular thinkers explored new models of reality that accommodated multiple dimensions of existence. Meditation practices evolved to include techniques for perceiving and interacting with energy fields, while psychological theories expanded to account for the impact of dimensional awareness on human consciousness. As these changes permeated every aspect of existence in both worlds, Thomas and the Queen found themselves at the nexus of a transformation that exceeded even their wildest imaginings. Their personal journey had become a catalyst for evolution on a cosmic scale, demonstrating that the most profound connections often arise from the most unlikely circumstances. The challenges they faced continued to grow in complexity, but so too did their capacity to meet them, drawing strength from their shared experiences and the support of those who believed in the potential of their union. The ongoing saga of Thomas and the Queen's connection continued to unfold in ways that defied conventional understanding, creating ripples that extended far beyond their immediate circumstances. In Maplewood, the once ordinary town had transformed into a hub of interdimensional activity, with visitors from both worlds converging to witness and participate in the unprecedented cultural synthesis. The local diner became a meeting place where human patrons shared tables with beings of pure energy, their conversations facilitated by translation devices that combined human technology with alien consciousness manipulation. Children played games that involved manipulating gravitational fields, while elderly residents shared stories of how they had adapted their gardens to thrive in the subtly altered environment. The Queen's realm experienced its own transformation, as districts traditionally reserved for pure energy beings began accommodating hybrid spaces where human visitors could safely interact. Crystalline structures adapted to emit wavelengths compatible with human vision, while energy fields modulated to prevent overwhelming human sensory systems. Marketplaces that had once traded exclusively in abstract concepts now featured stalls offering goods that combined alien technology with human craftsmanship, creating artifacts that embodied the fusion of their worlds. Scientific breakthroughs accelerated as researchers from both dimensions collaborated on projects that pushed the boundaries of what either species had previously considered possible. Quantum physicists worked alongside energy manipulators to develop new theories of reality that accounted for the observable effects of their union. Medical teams combined human surgical techniques with alien healing energies to create treatments that addressed both physical and energetic aspects of health. Environmental scientists studied how the blending of their worlds affected ecosystems, leading to innovations in sustainable living that benefited both planets. Cultural exchanges reached new heights of sophistication as artists and performers developed techniques for creating experiences that engaged multiple senses across dimensional boundaries. Musicians composed symphonies that resonated in both sound waves and energy fields, while visual artists created installations that shifted appearance based on the observer's dimensional perspective. Writers crafted narratives that unfolded simultaneously in linear and non-linear time, challenging readers to expand their understanding of storytelling. Political systems evolved to accommodate the complex realities of interdimensional relations. New governmental bodies emerged that included representatives from both worlds, developing policies that balanced the needs and capabilities of each species. Legal systems adapted to handle cases involving dimensional crossover, creating precedents that would guide future interactions. Diplomatic protocols expanded to include considerations for energy signatures and consciousness patterns, ensuring that negotiations accounted for all aspects of their shared existence. Educational institutions transformed to prepare future generations for a world where dimensional boundaries were increasingly fluid. Curricula incorporated studies of both human history and alien evolution, while practical courses taught students how to navigate and manipulate energy fields. Research facilities established programs that encouraged cross-dimensional collaboration, fostering innovation through diverse perspectives and approaches. Technological advancements continued to reshape daily life, with inventions that drew upon the strengths of both worlds. Transportation systems developed methods for safe dimensional travel, while communication networks enabled instant interaction across vast distances. Energy production facilities harnessed the combined power of human engineering and alien energy manipulation, creating sustainable solutions that benefited both planets. Social structures adapted to accommodate the changing nature of identity and belonging. Communities formed that celebrated hybrid heritage, while support networks developed to help individuals navigate the challenges of existing between worlds. Philosophical and spiritual traditions evolved to incorporate new understandings of consciousness and reality, leading to richer, more inclusive worldviews. As these transformations continued to unfold, Thomas and the Queen found themselves at the center of a movement that transcended their personal connection. Their journey had become a template for how different forms of consciousness could come together to create something greater than the sum of its parts. The challenges they faced grew more complex, but so too did their capacity to meet them, drawing strength from the growing network of beings who shared their vision of a unified future. The story of their union continued to inspire others to seek connections across boundaries, whether dimensional, cultural, or conceptual. New partnerships formed between beings from different worlds, each adding their unique contributions to the evolving tapestry of interdimensional relations. Thomas and the Queen's experience demonstrated that true connection required not just acceptance of differences but celebration of them, recognizing that each perspective brought valuable insights to the shared journey of understanding. Their ongoing exploration of what it meant to be connected across dimensions revealed deeper layers of reality that challenged existing paradigms of existence. They discovered patterns in the fabric of space-time that suggested their union was part of a larger cosmic design, hinting at possibilities that extended far beyond their immediate circumstances. These revelations pointed toward a future where the distinction between worlds might